Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muaz and I share horror stories with you that are real. If you also want to share your story with me, there is Instagram in my description. You can use that to send your story. You can share your story with me by writing it or via voice message. Before starting the story, recite prayers, because it is said that when we are talking about these creatures, they start coming very close. Their interest increases to know what we are saying about them, so you don't feel scared. Let's move to our stories. Assalamu alaikum, Muaz bhai. This incident is from when black magic was done on my wife, and then to counter it, I had to perform a special ritual. This wasn't ordinary magic. It was called voodoo magic, which is very dangerous. And to counter it, I had to perform a special ritual in the jungle at night. This might scare the listeners to some extent, and then everyone will go back to their work. But this is the incident that left a deep impact on my life. In a terrifying magic counter required me to go jungle where no one even imagines going at night. And I had to go to that jungle and perform that special ritual. So let's start the story. So my name is Faraz and I belong to a village. It's a village in Pakistan. Maybe everyone knows about it. I got married in 2023, and after that, my life was going very well. Let me mention here that our relatives also live in Johannesburg, Africa. For my marriage, my talks were going on with my maternal aunt's daughter, and my aunt was very interested in it because I wanted a girl with whom my relationship was fixed. I won't bore you. I will come directly to the point. Although before this, there were many problems regarding this marriage because my aunt was insistent and my family was also supporting the aunt. But it was my choice of marriage. So I put in full effort and finally my marriage happened with my wife. Anyway, for some time after marriage, everything was perfect. Now my aunt's conversation with my mother completely stopped. Now it happened that some time passed well, and then after some time, my wife started strange symptoms. Meaning, if she's working, she's lost in her thoughts. And if I talk to her, there's no proper response from her. And if she's jostled, meaning shaken, she comes to her senses that someone is calling her. Anyway, I didn't pay much attention to this, but gradually her actions started becoming stranger. These were winter's nights, and the cold in winter nights was such that even bones would shiver. And around our house, there's a lot of vegetation, so that's why the cold is more in these areas. Now one time it happened that I was sleeping at night. I felt like the room door was opened and someone went out. I got up and looked on the bed, but my wife wasn't on the bed. When I looked, the door was slightly open, from which very cold air was coming in. I waited for a while, thinking maybe she went to the washroom. But even after a long time, my wife didn't return to the bed. I was still half asleep, and I started getting worried. I didn't feel like getting out of bed. The cold was so severe, but still I gathered courage, went out and looked my wife. My wife was standing in the corner of the courtyard. Now the courtyard was silent, and winter nights, you know how terrifying they feel. My wife was standing in the corner in a very strange way. And let me tell you something strange. She didn't have even one slipper on her feet. I immediately went with a blanket and covered her. I said, "What are you doing?" She stood silently. So when I shook her, she came to her senses. Then I asked her, "Why did you come here?" And then she also started feeling the cold and immediately came into the room. I kept asking her, but she wasn't capable of giving any answer. She wasn't telling anything, as if herself didn't understand when and why she went out. Anyway, I thought maybe she got up in her sleep. Even in the morning, when I talked to her, she had no answer. After that, 1 or 2 days passed, and then it happened that we were sleeping at night. Now, at night, I needed to go to the washroom. So when I got up and went towards the washroom, I saw something like powder stuck on my feet. I turned on the light and there was a turmeric on my feet. The turmeric was sprinkled all over the room in a very strange way. Turmeric had fallen up to my wife. This was a very strange feeling. I asked my wife. She said, "I don't know anything." I got very scared. How could this happen? No one lives in this house except us two. Then who threw the turmeric? Anyway, that night, both of us cleaned it together. But inside, I started feeling strange. My wife wasn't surprised at all, nor was she worried. She quietly helped me and cleaned the room. I said, "Do you understand what's happening?" She said, "I don't know anything." The next night, it happened again. At the same time, at night, around 12 to 1, when she would leave the room and stand in the courtyard in the cold. This time, at the same night time, she got up, left the room, and stood in the corner of the courtyard, facing the wall. Imagine, it was such a terrifying feeling that I got very scared. She's my wife. How is this happening to her? I said maybe she's developed a habit of sleepwalking. I told her, "Do you realize that you walk in your sleep?" She herself started saying that maybe I start sleepwalking. So I said, "Take care of yourself." The next night, I locked the room from inside, thinking if she has a habit of getting up and walking in sleep, I locked the door. It happened that at the same time at night, she gets up from the bed. She doesn't realize I've woken up. I'm watching her. She circled the entire bed, went to the main gate of the room, and stood there. She started shaking the lock with her hand, and as if she got angry that, why is there a lock? After shaking it for a while without opening it, she stood facing the door. A long time passed. I was scared. I didn't have the courage to go, hold her, and lay her on the bed. Anyway, I waited for a long time. She stood silently. I noted the time. She stood there for about half an hour and then quietly came back and laid on her bed. Now, anyway, she fell asleep, but I couldn't sleep. A long time passed, but I couldn't sleep. I felt she was snoring. So I also tried to sleep. I convinced my mind that maybe she's developed a habit of sleepwalking. Anyway, I locked it, and this practice continued daily. Now, it happens at night that I feel like someone comes and stands near the door outside and waits as if for someone to come from inside. He doesn't knock on the door, but I feel like he's standing outside the room. At exactly that time, at night, my wife goes and stands near the door. It It was a strange feeling. What can I explain? I couldn't understand. There were other matters at night. Sounds from the kitchen, like kitchen utensils rattling. And sometimes the outdoor washroom tap opening and closing by itself. And when the tap runs into an empty bucket and water falls, what sound it creates at night when it's completely silent. Now, because these were winter nights when fans are also off, even a slight sound outside can be heard. Anyway, matters starting getting messed up. Turmeric often scattered in the house. I told my wife to properly lock the turmeric box before sleeping. Still, as if someone takes the turmeric box from the cabinet and spreads it all. One night I was sleeping and I felt like someone was very close to me. That feeling wasn't wrong. My face was toward my wife and I was sleeping on my side. Now here's the thing to hear. As soon as my eyes I saw, my wife's face was towards me. I don't know. Her eyes were open and she was staring at me. I got terribly scared. I said to her, "Aren't you sleepy?" My voice trembled. I asked her, "What's your problem? Why are you looking at that?" But she gave a strange smile from the front and turned over again to lie down. Anyway, the atmosphere was fine for a few days. Or maybe my eyes didn't open at night. Then one night, it happened that I was sleeping and I heard a rustling sound under my bed, like someone crawling. This feeling was very terrifying. I looked under. No one was there, but my wife's face was like that, meaning she was lying in such a way as if someone lying on the bed is looking under the edge. She was lying upside down, and as if she was looking at someone below. I had absolutely no courage to look where she was looking. This feeling was very scary. There was slight movement under my bed, as if someone was under the bed. When I woke up in the morning, I saw that under my bed there was a line of elbow marks, as if someone crawled out. Oh my god! And turmeric was scattered under the bed. Now, as if someone crawled out from under the bed over the turmeric. I mentioned this to an imam from the neighborhood. He gave me some taweez to burn over my wife and some water and a taweez to stitch in leather and put around my wife's neck. Anyway, I did that, and that one day I saw no taweez around my wife's neck. I said, "Where did you put the taweez?" She said, "I don't know. I went to bathe and took it off. After that, I couldn't find the taweez anywhere." I got a bit worried, and the next day itself, such an incident happened that made my hair stand on end. It happened that I was sleeping at night. Now, the thing to tell here is that these matters happened more at night. And because it was a winter night, meaning the second hand of the clock in the room could be heard clearly. Tick, 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 tick. This sound here. That's when even slight rustle would wake me up, and I realized my wife wasn't on her bed. I had locked the room. I looked around, but my wife wasn't on the bed. Then I felt a slight buzzing sound. I listened carefully. My wife was saying something in some tunes, and that sound wasn't from anywhere else, but from under the bed, and as if she was humming something. But the tunes were reversed, humming in a strange voice, strange language. I didn't have the courage to look, and then I felt someone crawling under the bed. Then I gathered courage because she is my wife. So I looked under the bed. Muaz bhai. My wife was staring at me, meaning she had half her body out and her face was out from my sight, as if she was waiting. And as soon as I looked down, she was staring at me. And as soon as I saw her, she started laughing with a cackle. I got scared. I said, "Come out. What are you doing under the bed?" Oh Muaz bhai, that feeling I can't describe to you. Anyway, she kept laughing continuously and wouldn't stop. I held her from the side, pulled her out from under the bed, and I laid her on her bedding. I covered her with the quilt, and now matters were beyond my control. I mentioned this to one of my friends. I said, "Bro, all these matters are happening to me." So he told me about a spiritual Baba in another village. Go get checked. First go alone and narrate the whole matter. If he says, then bring Bhavi along. So I said, okay. That same day, I left for that Baba Ji's village. So I said, okay. That same day, I left for that saint's village. The road was long. It would take me many hours. I instructed my wife well before leaving not to open the door for anyone. I myself recited Ayatul Kursi and blew on her, and in my heart said, "Oh God, now she's in your protection." Then I left. There were other people too, and some cases where jinn were possessed. Those people possessed by jinn, Babaji had a curtain on one side, and men were sitting on one side. On the other side of the curtain, women were sitting, narrating their matters. There I saw another scene of a girl possessed by a demon. Oh my God! That day I realized how great a blessing health is. That day I realized and how far we are from these things. We realized. Anyway, that would be a long story if I told the full incident of that girl. Babaji even talked to that jinn. A heavy voice was coming from inside the girl. The girl was invisible, but from the other side of the curtain, it felt like a man speaking. Anyway, a lot of conversation happened. At one point, Babaji compromised, and that jinn also compromised. Anyway, that's a long story. Now coming to why I went to the Baba for my wife. I sat there for a long time. Then, when my turn was coming, Babaji's attention turned towards me. Babaji was talking to that person, but his eyes were on me. Then he said, "Come here, son. Your problem is very serious. The spell on your wife is very dangerous. That's black magic, called voodoo. This magic isn't possible in Pakistan. A foreigner did this magic from outside." I was stunned. I would never heard such a thing, but immediately it clicked in my mind about my aunt, because my aunt is in Africa, and I heard voodoo magic is done a lot there, and so common that I can't tell. Maybe you have heard such things too. She's been living there for years. Her daughters are spoiled. She just wanted marriage to a Pakistani boy from her own family, so these girls could be controlled. On social media and the other platforms, when I saw their clothes, attire, lifestyle, it felt strange to me. Maybe boys like modern girls, my nature was different. And that's why I didn't like my cousins. That's when I fell in love with this girl, who was my wife, and married her. Anyway, back to the story. So Babaji said, Voodoo has been done on you, and its counter is very difficult. But you can do its counter but you can do its counter yourself. There's a great blessing in Allah's word. Every disease has a cure in Allah's word, if read with attention. I'm telling you some rituals, but you'll have to select such a place where there is no human far and wide. Some desolate place. I'm telling you this ritual. For about 10 nights, you'll have to go to a special place where there is silence and no one. So this ritual, if you can do it, tell me. I thought for a while about a lonely silent place. Anyway, I said, yes. She's my wife. I'll do anything for her. But when Babaji said, made my hair stand on end. Babaji said, think once. This ritual is very dangerous. When you recite it, some things will try to stop you. They'll convince you a lot not to do this ritual and run away from here. You have to continue the ritual. Those will be the things dominating your wife. They'll harass you, scare you, threaten you, to the point you'll worry about your life. But nothing like that. Don't pay attention. Continue your ritual. And hearing this, my courage broke first. But then I said to Baba, whatever it takes, I'm ready. Tell me the ritual. Babaji said, first go select a place and tell me you selected that place. Then I'll tell you the ritual. I took my bike and left. Searching, I don't find any such place. There are many fields in my village, but still no such place. Even in fields, someone keep coming and going somewhere far. Then it came to my mind, why not this ritual in the jungle next to our village? It's a very dense jungle, but a few kilometers away. That place doesn't belong to anyone. And fields around it. It's a special patch where very dense jungle is. So I entered that jungle on my bike. The jungle is such that even in daytime, it's scary. But I had to do it at night. Finally, I had no choice. Searching, I spot a place right in the middle of that jungle. That place seemed very suitable to me. I take some pictures of it and go to Babaji. I tell Babaji, now see, this is the place I've selected. Babaji said, very good. Exactly the place needed. But remember, no human sound anywhere. No one should come there far and wide, because that's also a condition of this ritual. So I said, Babaji, I have checked everything. Nothing like that. No trace of any human far and wide. I'll be alone there. So Babaji gave me something written to recite and said, when you recite it 40 times, it'll take about an hour, and do it for 10 nights. Anyway, I take that and left. And I tell Babaji that I am starting from tonight. Babaji also gave me a taweez to wear around the neck for protection. Put this around your neck too. I take that taweez and leave from there. Let me tell you here, Babaji didn't take money. Everyone is doing it for Allah's sake. And I keep that written thing with me. As soon as night fall, I take my bike around 12 when I reached that jungle. Now, what can I tell you? That jungle looked so terrifying at night that my spirits were breaking. But when my wife came to my mind, I got courage that no, I have to do everything for my wife. Anyway, first night, I forgot to mention one thing. Babaji said, take salt and make a circle. Recite inside the circle. Remember, whatever thing harasses you will not be able to enter the circle. You'll have protection. Anyway, I did that and sat in that circle. The sounds of some animals in the jungle, they were terrifying. Anyway, first night, Babaji said, in 1 or 2 nights, you'll get used to it. But remember, once you start, don't back out. And if you back out, it can be very bad. I started reciting. A short while passed. Now I felt like someone walking on leaves coming from afar. Its rustle started being heard. Was bhai. Every hair on my body stood up. What they call goosebumps. Indeed, when a human gets scared, I realized how goosebumps happen. Those footsteps came very close to me. I had my head down and was reciting, eyes closed. But I won't pay any attention to it. Keep reciting. Footsteps coming very close. And as if reaching my circle, those steps stopped. And then it started circling around my circle. Once, twice, and then as if someone came behind me and stood, and a silent whispering sound came in my ear. I kept reciting, but then, as if it started mimicking what I was reciting, exactly like I was reciting. It started reciting the same. But that voice was very strange. What I can tell you. What a state of terror when those footsteps sound came. And whatever came close to me, even the distance talked, sounds came, the jungle went silent. With great difficulty, I completed my ritual. As soon as my ritual completed, I felt no one was near. I opened my eyes, looked around. Even behind, I am telling all this briefly. Otherwise, I didn't have the courage. Looked behind very scared and terrified. But no one was there. As soon as the ritual completed, everything became normal. I ran immediately, started my bike and left that jungle. I felt like someone was watching me from behind. Someone's gaze was on me. I just wanted to reach home quickly. As soon as I reached home, I parked the bike and came to my room. Wife was lying on a bed in the room. I had told wife before leaving that I might be late at night. Sleep. Anyway, I lay on my bed. After a while, the same humming sound came. What scene did I see? My wife was looking at her hands and humming something. She was in a different trance, looking at her hands and humming strangely. I said, "Can't you stay quiet? Go to sleep. Is this time for his humming?" Then looking at me, she says, "Whatever you are doing, put full effort. Do what you have to do, but I won't leave it." I was still half asleep, but her words pierced my heart. How does she know what I am doing? I didn't answer her, and she smiled and then, with the same cackle, turned her face away, laying down and kept humming faintly. And then a long time passed, and she fell asleep. My eyes also closed, and that night passed too. Only one night had passed. 9 lights left. Anyway, the second night came. I took the bike and set off on my way. Reached the same place, sat in the same circle, and started reciting. This time, only 8 to 9 minutes passed. when I heard my own footsteps. The way I walk, dragging my feet, exactly like that. I heard footsteps, eyes closed, head down, and I continued my ritual. Those footsteps came very close to me, and then a voice comes. Listen, I'm feeling cold. I need a sheet. Masbai. It was my wife's voice, and it was really cold. I thought, where did my wife come from? My lips didn't stop, but my mind stopped there. How is my wife here? I remembered the Amil's words that complete our ritual. This could be an obstacle. I continued my ritual, and then the voice came again. Listen, can't you hear? I'm feeling cold. I still can't listen. I still kept reciting. And this time, a voice came angrily.
Can't you hear?
I kept reciting, and from behind, I don't know how many times, my wife's voice came angrily. Then, as if the same footsteps went back towards the jungle, and this time that voice turned into my wife's crying, as if something happened to my wife, and the sound was coming from the jungle afar. And she was crying, but in my mind, it was etched that whatever happens, don't break the ritual. I kept reciting continuously. The crying sound kept coming for a longer time, and sometimes it disappeared. The cold was so severe that lips were trembling. I had t-shirt underneath, shalwar kameez, jacket. I had t-shirt underneath, shalwar kameez over, jacket over, thick sheet over, thick cap on head, so that cold stops. But still, bone chilling cold. Anyway, completed my ritual and came out in the noses direction and started my bike. Now, a dog started following me. It ran behind me for a long time. I even got scared of that dog. Don't know, it wasn't barking, no saying anything, just followed my bike. Anyway, wild dog. Maybe some other reason. Anyway, I reached home. When I lay on my bed, my wife was awake. I said, "You haven't slept?" She said, "Before you came, there were knocks on the door 3 to 4 times. Whenever I went to ask, no voice came. Did you come earlier?" I was shocked. I said, "No, I just came now." She said 3-4 knocks on the door and no one was there. Because you said don't open the door. And at such nights, I wouldn't open anyway. And that's how, when I called out, no sound from outside. But strange that you just came. So who was at the door? Strange thing that you just came. So who was at the door? Anyway, all these matters had increased a lot. But there was only one way that I had to do that ritual. Now the third night comes. When I reached the jungle, that night felt very terrifying. I was scared that activities are increasing now. Night was getting deeper. Cold was very severe. I found that same place and to make the circle more visible, put more salt and sat in that circle and started reciting. My attention was on the paper. After some minutes, again sound like some animal walking from afar coming towards me, and as if moving big leaves and bushes with feet and mouth aside and making way toward me. In that jungle, owl sound was so terrifying that I could hear my pulse in my ear. That much terror I can't describe. I continued my ritual and then felt like someone threw pebbles near me. Some pebbles stopped right outside my circle, not like thrown from afar, like someone nearby flicked them with hands near my circle, but as if not entering the circle. One pebble hit hard on that salt of my circle, scattering the salt. I took some salt from the chopper, refilled that line of the circle, and firmly continued my ritual. Then slowly, again felt like someone came near my ear and said in my own voice, "Enough now. Ritual is complete." But ritual was still left. This was also a trick to make me leave without completing the ritual. Anyway, somehow I completed the ritual. Whenever activities happened, I kept my ears closed. Amil had said, "Whatever happens, no tension. And remember never to count footsteps coming near you." Meaning, if someone walks towards you and moves, don't count them. It can be very harmful for you. Anyway, I completed the ritual and again started leaving that jungle towards the exit. This time, a pack of dogs followed me, surrounding me from all sides. There was a hut in that jungle. I ran and entered that hut, and those wild dogs kept growling outside the whole night, making noise barking. That night I was very scared. Spent the night in that hut. Didn't return home. As soon as morning came, I went home and completed my sleep. Now, Mozbai, just like that, scared, I completed my remaining nights. If I start narrating every night's incident here, the story will become very long. So that's why I'm sharing the incident of my last night, which was the most terrifying night. In between, whenever I went to that place for rituals in those nights, it happened that the place I had made mine would have fresh leaves fallen exactly covering that place, so I wouldn't find it whenever I went. After searching a lot, I found my place, but I had kept some marks. It's the very last night when this ritual was to complete. There was some fault in my bike exactly when I was leaving home for this ritual. This night I had to go on foot. Here at night, there's such silence. In winter night, I started walking on my foot because after 9 nights of so much effort, I don't want to waste this ritual. And it was my last night. Somehow I reached the jungle. Let me tell. Just after leaving the village, about 3 to 4 kilometers, and I had to walk on foot through fields to that jungle. Anyway, I left the bike and with torch started walking towards the jungle through the fields. As soon as I entered that jungle, I felt like someone else was walking with me. When I walked, another footsteps came. I stopped. It stopped. I walked again, and as if someone was close to me. Breathing sounds coming. In between the nights I spent, what I can tell, what all I faced. Now my heart had become somewhat strong. At home with my wife, activities were still happening. She was still under effect, but those activities had reduced a lot compared to before. I kept walking on my foot, reached my designated place. That night, stones were placed there. Stones made a circle around the place. I put my phone on silent and got busy in my ritual again. Let me tell here, Amil had given special salt to use in that circle from start to end for 10 nights. Whenever the circle got disturbed, I refilled it with the same salt. Without it, I sat again and refilled the faded light with salt and continuing my ritual. This night, when I start reciting, screams start coming from the jungle, like many people screaming, very horrific sounds. Believe me, when those screams came, even the jungle animals were silent. Their sound also stopped. Sometimes sound from the left, sometimes right, and sometimes as if someone was very close standing and wants to stop me. As if many people running towards me, and sometimes feel like someone coming to hit me. Whenever I thought of backing out from ritual, my wife's face came before me. Anyway, I continued that ritual, and that night was very tough for me because that night there were a lot of activities. Amil had said that this is the night when these things will leave their effect. This ritual will completely end. And Amil had given me some water of some surah in a big bottle. Said, when you complete this ritual, go home and pour this entire water on your wife. That will completely end this black magic spell. So anyway, back to the story. Some silence happened. I continued completing my ritual. I thought maybe these things have stopped, but ritual was still left. I had recited only about 10 to 15 minutes while rustling sound came from the jungle again. This time, my wife's voice, and she was crying very loudly. What can I say? It felt so real, as if my wife came to this jungle and someone is troubling her and she's crying. Feels like someone is beating her and she cries and calling me, calling my name, calling me. Some corner of my mind said maybe she's my wife who followed me to the jungle and something is happening to her. But because I already told, I had become very firm and I continued my ritual. That voice turned from crying to screams. Screams as if someone troubling her very badly. But I continued my ritual. Anyway, somehow I completed my ritual. And after that, I ran from that place because I didn't have bike. And felt many people running behind me. While running, I got stuck in mud. That mud was so marshy that both my legs sank in it. Thorn pricked me. My sheet also got tangled in those thorns and felt like someone was very close, about to reach and finish me now, because I wasn't in protection. Anyway, anyone could attack me. Anyway, somehow I freed myself from those thorns. My hands weren't cooperating. Hands trembling because of cold and fear. Because of cold and also fear. Somehow I freed myself from those thorns, and after that, with great difficulty, somehow came out of that mash. And then ran towards outside the jungle. While running, I came out of that jungle. Till then, I felt a pack of dogs running behind me. And someone was big, and someone with big steps. Many people running behind me, as if as soon as I come out of the jungle, all those sounds stops suddenly. While my fear was still there, running, I reached home. Reaching home, I poured that waterfall on my wife, and after that, we slept. Felt like everything came to peace, everything in silence, exactly like we were living a normal life. Heart inside saying this ritual succeeded. And the next day, I went to Amil, told him my ritual is complete. He said, congratulations, meaning now whoever did this black magic on you is now unwell. But he refused to tell me who did the magic on my wife. But when I gave the sign that voodoo was done and Africa people are expert in it, I understood who our relative in Africa are, and motive also made sense as told at start of story. So anyway, Mosbai, after that, me and my wife returned to normal life. This story might sound filmy while hearing, but it really happened to me. And so, I did this ritual. How terrifying ritual it was that I used to do in jungle at nights. But after this, my wife completely recovered. So this was my story. Hope you like it. I like your stories a lot and definitely share my story. Allah Hafiz. Friends, hope you liked today's story. If you liked the story, don't forget to like the story. And if you haven't subscribed the channel, definitely subscribe the channel. This is our encouragement and motivation. And if you haven't heard these stories, which are in front of your screen right now, what have you done? Definitely listen if you don't have to sleep yet, because these stories will keep you awake. Take care.